Uganda is a jewel in the crown of Africa, with a rich tapestry of fauna and flora. Wetlands support the ecosystem to regulate rainfall in 2 seasons of the year, regulate water quality, and contribute to regulating floods. Lutembe Bay in Wakiso district is one of such wetlands. A Ramsar site, it is among the most important areas for the conservation of water birds in Uganda and a breeding ground for migratory birds. A home to 1,050 species, Uganda is a sanctuary for birds that thrive in its tropical climate and nestle in its lush vegetation. Tourists flock to this pristine expanse, and one cannot escape the allure and splendor of birds gliding across the skies or swooping to make a catch of the fish that lies in the shallow waters. Some of the birds at Lutembe Bay migrate from the far-flung Arctic region in Europe to escape the punishing winter to find food. Yet, as the country grapples with a population explosion peppered with pockets of industries, land has become a scarce commodity. With low productivity levels in rural backwaters, many disillusioned youth are flocking to urban areas. This has led to encroachment on ecological sites such as forests and wetlands.
Lutembe is a Ramsar site, as I told you, and is one of the important bird areas that we have in Uganda, and is a wetland center of Uganda. So as the community around, we are using the Lutembe wetland. So all what damages Lutembe damages all the community. So we are trying to keep Lutembe as it is.
Almost every Saturday, trucks carrying garbage from Kajansi, Jani and Dewe in Wakiso district dump it in Nakaga swamp in Lutembe Bay. This rubbish heap threatens the existence of the swamp. Whereas dealers in scrap have used the opportunity to collect plastic bottles from the rubbish to make a living, the damage is monumental.
Some people used to come and dump into the wetland. We called our stakeholders, our members of the association, and we came up with one solution of cleaning up or sorting out the garbage, and we tried it.
Some plastic is toxic, and it can disrupt hormones crucial for a healthy existence, even when it's not dangerous in itself, or not known to be. Plastic acts like a magnet for a range of other poisons and pollutants we have spilled into the natural world. According to sand diggers in the area, after a few weeks, marram will be poured on top of the rubbish to create a road connecting to the fish ponds in the swamp. But we have no guarantees that this will be done beyond the assurances. Stephen Sekatawa, who owns the land in this swamp, says he wants to put up a building in the place. Sekatawa does not have a wetland user permit.
NTV kyagendererwa njagala okuyiwa malamu okusobola okukolawo nga bwe njagala. Naamala okuyiwawo malamu akayumba kange okalabye ngenda kukazaawo era wabe ekifo mbeera ya ssente era eno ey'obulwadde yankola obubi. Nendowooza nti njagala okukalawo ekayumba nga esitoowa kakati namwe nga bwe mubadde luusi twali ogeredde.
To pay off his workers, Sekatawa allows them to mine sand for sale. They sell 2 tons of sand at 70,000 shillings and 4 tons at 110,000 shillings.
Mu Buganda tugamba nti mufu mulungi akaabirwa na nnoga, simanyi olugero oba olumanyi. Kwegamba lw'okubanga waliwo omusenyu nange bunyamba okuba ekifo kye naali bawadde ssente okunsimira bo ne babanga ate balya ku ezo ngeri yakikolamu.
Sand mining in wetlands is distracting because it strips the soil bare, depriving it of its topography. It also causes silting in Lake Victoria, thus depriving fish and other aquatic lives of breeding grounds. Although Sekatawa has owned this land for 50 years, in 2014, Cabinet issued a directive that all land titles in wetlands should be cancelled. However, Matia Lwanga Bwanika, the Wakiso district chairperson, says land ownership in wetlands is not the problem.
But personally, I dispel that notion because, one, apart from the challenges government can face in implementing such a directive, for instance, raising resources to compensate the title owners, because they may be the figure may be quite enormous. So that notion, may I dispel it totally. Why should I dispel it is that owning a land title in a wetland is not the problem. I would suggest it is a question of the political will to enforce. How can we enforce the people? What are the activities to be done in the wetlands, and how do we move around to do it, and how can we sensitize the communities? As simple as that.
The National Environment Management Authority and the Ministry of Water and Environment, which are tasked with conserving the environment and regulating activities in wetlands, are restricted in enforcing their role. Many of those encroaching on wetlands are senior government officials and regime cronies, and often bodies like NEMA are too timid to rein in on these errant officers.
The ministry, of course, is there, but it's underfunded. Look at the budget. You go to the budget and you see how much do we allocate the natural resources budget, how much in the Ministry of Water is put on the environment, how much goes to the NEMA, because as we are pointing at choosing fingers, we should also look at all these elements. Me personally, I would suggest, I would have chosen the NEMA that has not worked, it has not done its role. But if you look at the budget of NEMA, if you look at the vehicles they have, the facilities they have, the money power. Recently we had a circular from Hakanizi where he stopped every government agency from recruiting. But at the district we have only one environment office. So what can we do?
Emmanuel Esabu, who is the operations officer of the Environmental Protection Police Unit, says his unit carries out routine checks in the wetlands. However, some of the people the public thinks are degrading the environment with impunity actually have environmental impact assessments issued by NEMA.
Go to the wetlands very often, but the wetland coverage around Kampala metropolitan and the whole country is large, so we cannot keep an eye on each and every wetland. Fuel, that is one of the most important, but also like to sustain these operations, you must have food for the personnel, water and ABCD, because like for you to be able to sustain a deployment in a wetland for a long time, some of these logistics must be well met.
Okay. Bwanika says there should be political will before communities are sensitized about wetland degradation.
If even leaders at a level of a district, for instance, district councillors, are not aware of the environmental effects, that is a clear manifestation that we are in a very big trouble. That if someone at a level of a district councillor is not aware of the environmental degradation, therefore, what do you expect from the community?
Collins Oloya, the Commissioner, Wetlands Department, says in July 2017, government completed an exercise to identify wetlands for which land titles are going to be cancelled.
Now, after the cancellations, then my department and National Environment Management Authority are supposed to demarcate the section of the land which has wetlands and demarcate it, and also cause the owner of the land to restore that wetlands after Ministry of Land has cancelled it. So this process is going on. What we are experiencing now is that the certificate of financial implication has not yet been issued by Ministry of Finance, Plan and Economic Development, so that a budget is located to effect this.
As the department waits for the certificate of financial compliance, wetlands continue to be ravaged.
To be sincere, and let Uganda, all Ugandans have to know, and non-Ugandans who are in Uganda have to know that we are losing wetlands at a rate which is very alarming. In 1994, when the first wetland inventory and assessment was done, we had 15.6% of the land surface covered with permanent and seasonal wetlands all over Uganda. Now, for the last 25 years, we have lost 44% of the wetland coverage. We are now remaining with, out of the 15.6%, we are now remaining with less than 8.4% as of 2017. The Vision 2040, we are projected will remain with 1.6%. That is around 3,700 hectares of wetlands. I can give you an example. The wetlands which will remain, and you see that these are wetlands, those are wetlands which we cannot turn it into cultivation or any construction or building because of their nature. If you ever followed the eastern route, you have seen polygoma wetlands. So that one, we call them victory wetlands because it is difficult to drain. As we follow to the west, we will remain with Katonga wetlands. And those major wetlands where the water regimes is always constant.
Today, wetland degradation and destruction is occurring more rapidly than in any other ecosystem. This has increased floods and drought damage, soil nutrient runoff and water pollution, and shoreline erosion, and triggered a decline in wildlife populations. Destruction of wetlands is also detrimental to our region's economy, as tourism remains the country's largest foreign exchange earner. To mitigate wetland degradation, the ministry has restored degraded sections of wetlands in Namatala, Kirinya, and Nachivubo, and is planning a project for solar-powered irrigation pumps so that wetland-adjacent communities do not enter into the wetlands to drain water for cultivation. Although wetland users need environmental impact assessments to be approved by NEMA and the Wetlands Department before beginning to work in wetlands, degraders within communities go ahead with their activities because the concerned authorities do not have resources to monitor activities, and there is no specific law to regulate wetland use.
But it is very sad that many people have not realized and appreciated that environmental degradation is really a serious environmental issue that needs to be curbed. Because many times, like when you go to arrest some degraders, ABCD, you find certain communities saying you're not taking this fallow, is ABCD to us, this and this and this.
Nothing action is taken by all stakeholders. That is what will happen. And the consequence is very dire. One, we will not be seeing all this water, surface water and underground water for any water development activities. That will not be there. So the hydroelectric power generation potential will decrease heavily, and it will affect industrialization in any economic activity in Uganda because water drives activities. Not be having the various biodiversity in terms of fauna and flora which Uganda has and was named the Pearl of Africa. That one will disappear. Those one which are wetland loving plants and animals will also emit more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. In terms of quality, you have seen what is happening to national water. They are spending almost 7 times the cost of treating wetlands in Uganda because the degradation of wetlands here, which used to treat the sewage and the municipal wastewater from Kampala, the size has reduced and it's not doing that function of purifying the water before entering into Lutembe Bay here.
According to experts, Uganda loses 2 billion shillings annually from the degradation of wetlands. If this trend is to continue, not only in this place, but across the country, that means those figures will rise much higher than 2 billion shillings. Gillian Nantume, NTV Panorama.